rights. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Adam Rack, Mayor of the City of San Carlos, on behalf of the entire City Council, hereby proclaim the month of June 2023 as Pride Month throughout the City of San Carlos and urge our community to stand together and actively promote the principles of equality and liberty.
Well, real quickly and briefly, I just wanted to thank you all. So what folks at home aren't seeing tonight is that there was a beautiful, beautiful flag raising ceremony and a beautiful ceremony based on family here in San Carlos. And on behalf of the County of San Mateo, I just want to thank you all for that. Thank Mayor Rack, thank the council, thanks city staff for putting on such a wonderful event. And I want to invite everyone to come down to the San Mateo County Pride Center at 1021 El Camino Real in San Mateo and actually look at the work we're doing here at the county in this issue. So it's a beautiful thing to see so many different jurisdictions raising the pride flag and celebrating pride with parades and various events throughout the county. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor Mueller. All right. All right, do any of my colleagues want to make any comments on this item? And I just want to thank Supervisor Mueller again. Again, we did have a really great flag ceremony. Both my brother, Aaron Rack, was out here, and Ron's brother, Rick Collins, to help raise the flag. And we celebrated PFLAG and their 50th anniversary of supporting families of lesbians and gays, so, and all of the LGBTQ+ community. So thank you for being here, Ray, and we will move on. Is there any public comment? Oh, go ahead, John.
I just wanted to make a quick announcement that this Saturday is Pride in the Park at Burton Park. I believe it's 11 to 1 are the hours, 11 to 2 are the hours. So that was a great event last year, and hope folks can make it out for that this Saturday, 11 to 2. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Vice Mayor Dugan. Is there any public comment?
It looks like we do have one hand. Debbie, I'm not sure if your hand, we're taking public comments for the Pride Month proclamation. So if you're interested in speaking on that, oh, the hands just went down. Thank you.
All right, with that, I will turn to council communications and announcements. Councilmember Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't usually have a lot to report, but it's kind of been building, so I have a few things I wanted to just mention. Over the last month or so, the Youth Advisory Council conducted interviews for candidates for the council for next year, and they have kids that are from ages 12 to 17 that serve on the Youth Advisory Council. And I see Tyler's here, so if I get anything wrong, you can correct me. But they had a record number of applicants. I think they had, 25 or 30 kids that applied. And being the council liaison, they asked me to sit in on the interviews. And I have to tell you, every time I do this, my faith in youth is restored. I think we've got a great future. We have some really smart young kids in this town. The common theme was that they feel safe here and they love this town, which is really nice to hear from young kids. And they all want to make a difference. A lot of them mentioned health, mental health, which is something. It's great that they're engaged and aware of it. It's kind of sad that they have to be aware of it. But anyway, I am very impressed by all these applicants, and I understand they make some excellent choices. The second thing that happened was that I attended, along with Mayor Rack, the ACC lunch last Friday. It was a Western theme, I think, and met a lot of great people, sat next to the mother of the cook, and the place was full, and I always enjoy going to lunch there. Next thing was I decided I wanted to visit the navigation center that's just been built over by the sheriff's office over on Maple. It is really impressive. I think they've got 240 units. They can hold 288 people. I got the tour from our county manager, Mike Callaghy, and Ileana Rodriguez, who is now the assistant county manager. She runs the facility, very impressed with it. And I've talked to Jeff about us figuring out a way that when we encounter, or we have residents in San Carlos that encounter people who are homeless, that there's a way that we can contact somebody who can make some outreach to those people and get them housed, because that facility offers showers and beds and security and storage and food, and they even have a medical office, and I think they're going to have the first dental office in the nation shortly. So I'm very impressed with it. I'm very happy and proud that we in San Mateo County have really taken an aggressive effort to end homelessness. The last item is Caltrain is I was going to say steaming along, but that's not the right term, toward electrification. There is going to be an event coming up. I believe it's next month. When I pin down the date, I will let everybody know. But it's going to be the opportunity to tour the new trains, the new cars that have been shipped from Utah, and they will be in service by September 1st of next year. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Collins. I just had one quick announcement I want to make. So today, I used a different gavel today. My dad sent me his gavel a couple months ago, and I was trying to find the right occasion to use it. And with Father's Day coming up, I thought it would be appropriate to use his gavel. He's chaired a number of community organizations on boards, and certainly was an inspiration for me, and remains an inspiration for me to give back to the community and engage in community service. So I told him, hopefully he's watching on Zoom. I told him to dial into YouTube, so I'm using his gavel. He's got it engraved with his name, but I thought today was an appropriate time to use it, and want to wish all the fathers out there a happy Father's Day. Oh, and I know, Jeff, you had something you wanted to announce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. It's my pleasure tonight to be able to introduce to you all and the community our new Chief of Police, Captain Mark Myers from the Sheriff's Department, who's going to come up here and say a few words. And I see our Assistant Sheriff here, Ryan Monahan. Thank you. You gave us terrific candidates to take a look at. Mark was my selection. He's got a long history with the City of San Carlos Police Bureau. He was one of the original deputies started here. He definitely convinced me that he has a lot of understanding and a lot of care for our community, and a tremendous amount of respect from his colleagues in the Sheriff's Department, who I had the opportunity to talk to. So we're real excited to welcome you to our family here in San Carlos, and look forward to working with you and continuing to work with the Sheriff's Department and our new sheriff in providing law enforcement services to our community. Mark?
Thanks, sir. Mr. Mayor, council members, it's an honor and a privilege to be selected as your captain for San Carlos. Like Jeff said, I have many fond memories of working here back in the day, so I'm super excited to kind of return to base with that. Chief Bell left me a real easy transition. She worked really hard, and I promise to continue on with that hard work that her and Sergeant Myers did for the city. So thanks again for this opportunity. I'm very looking forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, and congratulations, and welcome aboard. I don't see any other comments from council. Let's move to number 8, public comment. These are persons wishing to address the City Council on matters not on the posted agenda may do so. Each speaker is limited to 2 minutes. If there are more than 5 individuals wishing to speak during public comment, the mayor may choose to allow the first 5 speakers to speak during this time, and the balance of the public comment speakers will be called upon at the end of the council meeting. Crystal, do we have any public comment?
Yes, we have 2 hands.
Okay.
First up is Debbie Baldacci. You should be able to unmute.
Good afternoon, Mayor Rack and Council. I have 3 points that I wanted to bring to your attention tonight. And the first one was congratulations on the survey that showed that our City Council and city staff are consistently ranked among the highest of all cities in California. And that's something you should really be proud of. And it's something that many of us share in appreciating your good work, your transparency, and your commitment to the public. So thank you. Number two, on that line, I did send a letter in asking for you to pull up on your own motion 841 Old County Road Development for a review. And even though it may not qualify for legal review under inadequacy of a mitigated negative declaration, I ask you what would be the harm in calling it up to allow the public to give more comment. That development will be 339,000 square feet. It could house a bio-level 3 lab, and it's the closest of all of the developments to single-family homes. So please review my letter, and if at all possible, find it in your hearts to pull that up and allow public comment. The third comment was that at the meeting on 841 Old County Road, Commissioner Iacopone said that the City Council, in relationship to the upcoming biosafety ordinance, was going to adopt the Planning Commission's recommendation with modifications, and that was for a conditional use permit. The other ordinance was for a ban, which the staff recommended. So that was very disconcerting to hear because we thought that would be discussed at a formal meeting. So if you are planning to do a conditional use permit or propose another option that was not on the table when we closed, could you please submit that for review so that the public can review it? Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
Next up is Nahid Fajarzand. You should be able to unmute.
Good evening, City Mayor and Council members. Thank you for hearing my comment. Longtime resident since 1978. Calling tonight to talk about the Alameda de los Pulgas project and about the phase 3 portion of it in San Carlos, and basically asking about the status of that project, being that all of our upper education schools in the city are in that area from middle school upwards, and all of our kids travel that corridor. Biking is very dangerous along that corridor, and so most of our kids cannot do that and take the bus instead. And so we are asking for continuous, connected, and protected Class 4 bike lanes along that route. I was really glad to see that the survey that was recently conducted in San Carlos returned that the bike lanes and sidewalk safety is one of the top 3 concerns of San Carlos residents. And I understand that the Planning and Transportation Commission is in favor of these kind of bike lanes as well. And so I'm wondering if there are any grants allocated towards pursuing the completion of this project so that we can have safe routes to school for our kids. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And then we do have one more hand.
Okay.
Sonia Elks.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I would like to second all of that, and I'm also very curious to hear the answer about what the status is of the timing that might be for the phase 3 project on San Carlos Ave from, I think it's Beverly, all the way to the border of Belmont. Thanks.
Thank you, Sonia. Jeff, is that something we can get back to both those speakers on?
Happy to.
Thank you.
And there are no further hands.
Okay. All right. We're going to move on to item 9, the consent calendar. Does anyone wish to pull anything from the consent calendar? Okay. Is there any public comment on these items?
There are no hands.
Okay. Then I'm happy to take a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve City Council consent calendar items A through G.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Crystal, can you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Collins?
Yes.
Councilmember McDowell?
Yes.
Councilmember Venkatesh?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dugan?
Yes.
And Mayor Rack?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the motion passes 5-0. Moving on to item 10, new business. 10A, consideration of adopting a resolution adopting the biannual budget for the fiscal years 2023 to 2025, including the 2-year operating and capital budgets for the city of San Carlos.
Mr. Mayor,
Rebecca
I'd
Miller.
like just to make an announcement. I'm going to recuse myself from this item due to a potential conflict. The city attorney portion of the budget affects my position with the city.
Okay, thank you. We'll give you a second to step out.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Rebecca Mendenhall, Administrative Services Director. So tonight for your consideration is the adoption of the biennial budget for the fiscal years 23 through 25. Since we covered the details at the budget study session on May 5th, I'll keep my presentation tonight brief. But before I begin, I do want to sincerely thank my staff, Jenny, Marco, Tammy, Cheryl, and Maddie, for their hard work pulling this book together. The budget is not just a document, but it's a total team effort. So the proposed budget includes all of the feedback, comments, and direction provided by the City Council on May 5th. So as part of the budget adoption, there are 2 resolutions for your approval. The first is the formal adoption of the 2-year operating and capital budgets, and the second is the establishment of the 23-24 appropriations limit, or the GANN limit. So there were a few changes that have been incorporated into the budget. There were 3 new projects that were created, including funding for tree replacement, funding for geotechnical engineering services related to the landslides, and funding to add EV charging stations in city facilities. As just a quick note, the geotechnical engineering services project was approved earlier on the consent calendar. In addition to the new projects, we added $30,000 to the citywide pole banner project for banners in the industrial arts area. There were 2 funding recommendations that were removed following the discussion. We removed $150,000 for Harrington Park turf and the 2nd-year funding for the Community Foundation grant program. So all of these changes have been incorporated into the packet tonight. So as you can see, your packet's a little bigger than normal, but we wanted to provide you a copy of what the final document will look like and include when it's published. So new items to the book this year include a 15-year historical look back at the budget, or all the information that we provided you during the study session. And this information can be found in the transmittal letter on page 52. We've added a reader's guide to the budget, or a quick overview of the document, and that begins on page 75. We've added a budget in brief, or a 2-page flyer of some of the highlights of this document, and that's on page 77. We've added a basis of budgeting and accounting, which includes more details on our financial controls, and that's on page 85. And finally, we've added the budget process and calendar, which gives the reader more of an understanding of all of the work that goes into this document, and that's on page 87. So there are a few things in building a 500-page document. We did find a few things after it was published to your packet, and we're working on correcting those. Those include, there are some capital project forms from the prior year that were previously approved that needed to be updated. We're going to do that. The title on page 481 is incorrect. It should state the citywide pole banners, not just industrial arts. So that's been corrected. And there's a couple of typos on the debt summary page on page 523, whereas the total outstanding long-term bond principal as of June 30th, 2023 should read $106 million instead of $108 million, and the total sewer fund debt should be $104 million instead of $106. So these corrections have all been made and will be included in the final published document. These adjustments are just for reference or reporting only, and they have no impact on the actions you're taking tonight. So upon adoption tonight, this summary reflects the total appropriations by fund type. So you can see our total budget for 2024 is $125 million, and 25 is $119 million. A quick summary of the general fund revenues are shown here. As discussed during the study session, we continue to see growth in our property and sales tax revenues. The total of those two revenue sources are $31 million, and they account for 56% of our total revenues. And this chart reflects the recommended general fund operating expenditures by department. Public safety is our largest expense at $25 million and accounts for 43% of the total. So this table represents the total estimated general fund balances. In 23-24, we're proposing to pay down our pension liability by $3 million to achieve savings of approximately $300,000 per year. This item will come forward with more detail once we've received our actuarial report from CalPERS, which will be late July, early August. In addition to the pay down of the pensions, we're recommending the transfer of the facilities and infrastructure reserves to the capital funds in the amount of $7.85 million in fiscal year 24 and $4.85 million in fiscal year 25 to fund projects. So speaking of reserves, this table is our reserve balances. The Government Finance Officers Association of the GFOA has issued its best practice and recommends a minimum of 17% in reserve. Even after paying down our pension obligation and transferring funds over to the capital fund, our reserve level is still healthy, or 52% at the end of fiscal year 25. So this year, we're investing heavily in our infrastructure in the amount of $187.7 million. As reflected here, there's a significant amount of funding to be spent on the sewer system and streets and sidewalks. So as a comparison, 2 years ago, our 5-year capital improvement program was $89 million. 15 years ago, our 5-year capital improvement program was only $18 million. So you can see we're really investing in our infrastructure. So looking at the capital improvement in a different way, this is a new addition to our budget book. It's part of the budget and brief document, and it ties the council's strategic goals into our funding over the next 5 years. And more detail on what these projects are can be found on page 149 of the budget book. So although we do have a balanced budget, there's still many significant threats that may impact future budgets. These include climate change and its effect on our resources in the form of higher water rates, continued water conservation efforts, wildfire threats, PG&E power shutoff events, flooding, and sea level rise. There's significant increases in street resurfacing needs, the rising public safety costs, and uncertainties with CalPERS and investment rates, as well as uncertainties with our vehicle in lieu funding from the county. So fiscal sustainability remains a high priority for San Carlos, and to that end, we'll continue to seek ways to be as efficient as possible while continuing to provide high-quality services to the public. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thanks to you and your team for all the work. I know it's a lot to pull this all together, and I appreciate all you do throughout the year to keep us on track. Are there any questions? I know we went through a lot of this in the study session, but are there any questions from any of my council colleagues? Vice Mayor Dugan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, good report, Rebecca, and good budget this year. And, you know, I'll have some general comments later. But my question is, so based on our study session, we're removing the allocation for the community foundation, but that's just in 24-25. We're still making our contribution over the next year, correct? Correct. Got it. And the intent there isn't to stop supporting the foundation. The intent is that we revisit it every year. Is that the idea?
Council can choose to revisit it next year when we do the mid-cycle review, yes.
Okay, great. I definitely would like that track so that we at least discuss it when we do the update next year. Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Dugan. I don't see any other hands. Crystal, is there any public comment?
There are no hands on Zoom.
Okay, I will bring it back here. Is there any council comments before I call for a motion? Councilmember Collins, and then Councilmember McDowell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to thank Rebecca and your team for all the work. I really like color-coded stuff, and every time we do this budget, it just seems to make more sense. And I really appreciate, I know it's, 500-600 pages, but it's just a lot easier to understand. And I like the way it's put together, and there's parts of it that is easy for the public to understand as well. So that's all I wanted to say was thank you. Great job.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember McDowell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too want to say thank you, Rebecca, to you and your team, and to all of our staff for bringing forward such a thorough budget and great ideas for moving forward. I wanted to build on Ron's comment that I love page 77, the budget in brief, and the fact that our budget is really reflecting our strategic priorities and the priorities of our community. And I agree with Ron, it's really easy to follow and to look at just the tremendous investments that we're making into street resurfacing and childcare and parks and storm drains, all of the really important feedback that we heard from the community over the last year, but also in our survey that was mentioned tonight in public comments. So I'm just grateful that we are reflecting that back. Our budget reflects the needs of our community, and I'm just excited for the work ahead. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilman McDowell. Vice Mayor Dugan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to recognize Jeff and staff, Rebecca and team, and just for the and prior councils, just for the financial stewardship of San Carlos in general. We're in just dramatically different shape than we were 10, 12 years ago, and you see that structural surplus we have, and the direct correlation between that and all the exciting, interesting projects we have underway. So I just want to recognize that and appreciate our stewardship over the finances of the city and where that puts us able to do good things for our community. And I too like this budget in brief and seeing the direct tie between the strategic goals we set and how we're spending our money. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right, I do not see any other hands raised, so with that, I'd be happy to call for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move to adopt Resolution 2023-
66.
Is that 86?
66.
66, thank you. A resolution of the City Council of the City of San Carlos adopting the biannual budget for fiscal years 2023 to 25, including the 2-year operating and capital budgets for the City of San Carlos.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Venkatesh, did you want to make a comment? No. No, okay. All right. Crystal, can you call the roll?
Vice Mayor Dugan?
Yes.
Councilmember Collins?
Yes.
Councilmember McDowell?
Yes.
Councilmember Venkatesh?
Yes.
And Mayor Rack?
Yes.
Motion
Okay,
passes.
motion passes. Moving on. We are cruising through things. Item 10B, consideration of adopting a resolution electing the population and price adjustment factors and establishing the 2023-2024 appropriations limit of the City of San Carlos pursuant to California Constitution Article 13B and Section 7900 et square of the California Government Code.
Great. So Rebecca Mendenhall, Administrative Services Director. So this resolution is what we've called the GANN limit. It's an annual requirement of the government code, which places limits on how much money we can be appropriated each year. So the limit is calculated using the percentage change in per capita personal income and the county's population growth, which this year totaled 3.99% for a total limit of $113 million. So the total appropriations in our budget that are subject to this limit are $53 million, or 47%. So we're well below the available limit, or the allowable limit required by law. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. This is a calculation that we're required to do at the end of every year.
Thank you, Rebecca. Are there any comments on the GAN limit? Okay. Chris, is there any public comment? on this item?
There are no hands.
Okay. Is there any comments from the council? All right, if not, I'm happy to take a motion. Don't all jump.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt Resolution 2023-
67?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of San Carlos electing the population and price adjustment factors and establishing the 2023-24 appropriations limit of the City of San Carlos pursuant to California Constitutional Article 8B and Section 7900 of the California Government Code.
I'll second that. I think you meant 13B.
13, got it. I'm not great on Roman numerals. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Okay. Councilmember Venkatesh?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dugan?
Yes.
Councilmember Collins?
Yes.
Councilmember McDowell?
Yes.
And Mayor Rack?
Yes. All right, motion passes 5-0. Moving on to item 11, agenda setting. These are items discussed in this agenda setting section will be considered by the council for placing on a future agenda. No action will be taken on these items at this meeting. Item A is consideration of agendizing an item to review construction time limits. I brought this, asked to put this on here. We passed the resolution, I don't know if it was a year ago, year and a half ago. It was a while ago. So I was just asking to see if we can get a report to council potentially on how that's going, whether there's been any concerns, and to get an update on that resolution of whether it's been something that we've needed to use. And that was it, nothing more than that. Since we passed the ordinance, I just want to get a check-in and see how it's working.
I think that's fair. I think I might have been on Planning Commission, so it might have been over 2 years ago, actually. Yeah. So I think an update's in order, especially since I think the Cherry Street project by VIV was the proximate cause of that, and they are now the proud owners of a massive entitlement in our town. So I think it's worthwhile.
Okay.
I would support that too. Are you thinking a presentation at a meeting or at in a
Love to get a
council?
presentation at a meeting. I think it'd be good to hear
Okay,
that.
fair enough. I support it.
Okay. All right. That's enough. So we will add it to a future agenda. With that, we are at item 12, adjournment. And with that, we are adjourned.